Well, hello, professors, fellow students, and everyone else joining online. My name's Michael Mast. I've spent the last 20 years in the Air Force. So if there's been one thing on my mind this summer, it's not been the Olympics, it's been retirement. So that's what I'm here to discuss today, relocating for retirement and using site suitability analyses to find the ideal retirement spot in Western Washington. So this is here is going to be everything we're going to go over. There's a standard purpose statement. I'll then describe a scenario. We'll go over some data, do a little analysis, and then wrap up everything in a conclusion. It's a lot to go over, so I'm probably going to speak a little fast, but since this whole thing is being recorded, please feel free to go back and watch it again as you need to. Now, millions of Americans retire each year, so you might be wondering why we even need to do a study like this. Surely there's some sort of retirement planning resources available, right? Well, it turns out that most of those planning resources only focus on finances. After all, if you're not going to work, you're not going to make money. But yet food still has to be bought, utility bills still need to be paid, and so on. Retirement is more than just not going to work. It's a major lifestyle change. Think about this. If you worked 40 hours a week, by the time you're 65, you'll have spent 90,000 hours at work. That's 90,000 hours of the structure, the purpose, and the various social interactions that work provides that simply disappear. It's a change that leaves many retirees bored, lonely, or depressed. But whether retirement's looked at as a chance for a new start or the thing that keeps you from being labeled old, the needs that have to be met in order to adapt to this change and overcome those negative mental effects are unique to each person. And if we understand what those needs are, then we can use GIS processes to find somewhere that meets them. And with those needs met, we can expect retirees to have a happy, healthy retirement. To demonstrate how these GIS processes work, let's take a look at the following scenario. We have a 39-year-old male, me, with a background in military communications and cybersecurity. He has a wife, 2 kids in elementary school, and a dog. Now, unlike most retirees, there is a military pension and a slightly smaller VA disability check that will continue to provide him an income stream. However, at 39, he's still young enough that if he wanted to, he could start a second career and collect yet another paycheck. To properly take care of his family, he's going to need a 3-bedroom house at minimum and at least 1,600 square feet of space. More is always better. And despite having an income, it shouldn't all be spent on the house. So we'll cap the price at $750,000. With school-aged kids, good schools are crucial, and how those schools perform at meeting state standards is an easy metric to measure. Keeping it simple, at least half of the students need to meet state standards, not just in elementary school, but high school and middle schools as well. Then lastly, after working for years in windowless government facilities, being able to go outside and fish, or to go on a hike with his dog, or to just generally enjoy nature is important. So we need a place that has lots of parks nearby. All of the data for this, whether it's the base maps, the housing data, school assessments, parks details, so on, all come from free and open sources, all of which are transformed on the fly into the standard WGS84 pseudo-Mercator projection that's used by nearly every online mapping service. This makes the results easy to compare with, say, Zillow when it comes time for the retiree to move into the study area. But what is the study area? Simply put, it's the 19 counties that span Washington state from the Cascade Mountains to the Pacific Ocean. It covers Seattle, Olympia, and Vancouver, and includes several national and state parks. It's essentially everything you see in white here. All right, now that we know where we're looking at, and more importantly, the why, let's start looking at the data itself. If you've ever used Zillow, Redfin, or any other housing site, you've used a multiple listing service. It's a database that contains anything you need to know about every house in the market. The problem is, though, it's hard to use the data for anything other than those websites, especially in something as large as our study area. Luckily, there's a free-for-use Python library that can pull everything for any specified area and date range, and then save it as a CSV file for us to use. At the bottom of the screen, you can see a full script that shows its use for this scenario. Now, getting this data only makes up this leftmost column here. Since the file contains every house sold within the entire state, anything that's too expensive or too small has to be filtered out. The resulting list of homes then is what matches our retirees' requirements. This list can then be imported into our GIS software of choice, where it can be clipped into the bounds of the study area, which then allows us something that we can display on the map. This shows a density of the eligible homes that would support our retiree, most of which appearing in the central area between Seattle and Olympia, although there's a few in the Vancouver area in the south. If we summarize these by county, well, it's not that useful. The counties are too large or have too few eligible homes in them, which skews the results. Not only do half the counties show the same average price, there's honestly no way that Seattle's King County has cheaper housing than, was that Skamania? Yeah. Anyways, sub-counties, however, with their smaller size and the ability to ignore those areas that don't have homes, provides a better visualization of those areas with expensive and inexpensive places to live. But we need more than just homes. Schools were also one of our requirements. Thankfully, because public schools are required to make their information public, this is easy. Enrollment information, demographics, and nearly any other statistic are a simple click away at the Washington office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction's website. That's a tongue twister. The metric we care about, though, is graded assessments. Since each metric in the data file has its own row, and there's almost 1 million rows in total, it takes a lot of filtering and copying between tables just to get these assessments that we want. Then, in our GIS software, we can join these by the schools, calculate an average between the three, which then comes up as a single metric for each school. Merging that data with the school's attendance boundaries gives us these eligible areas for elementary schools. For middle schools, and lastly, for high schools. Since our retirees' children will be attending all 3 school tiers, intersecting these school boundaries simulates the school feeder patterns that indicates where a student would be able to attend passing schools for each level. Now, overall, this is more constrained than I would have expected, which I can only assume is because of the mass homeschooling during the COVID pandemic. Still, this is data that can be used. Anyways, this leaves us with the great outdoors. Now, in addition to the numerous state parks, this study area contains 3 national parks: Olympic, Mount Rainier, and the North Cascades. Between them, that's over 1.5 million acres of land, more than 600 miles of hiking trails, 300 glaciers, and an active volcano. It's about as far away from life in a cubicle as you can get. Joining the data layers for these national and state parks makes them easy to display, but finding out how many parks are close to each house takes a little bit more work. If we find a single point for each of these areas, the centroid, we can create an origin destination cost matrix that calculates the drive times from each house to each park. Removing any result beyond an hour's drive, we can do a summary count on the results for each home and then join them with all the other house data that we have to consolidate it into a single piece of data. These can then be color-coded based on the number of parks nearby. Those with the most appear to be in this area around Olympia and Seattle, probably due to the central location and access to the highway system. All right, now that we have all the data, what do we do with it? Well, the first option is going to be a Boolean analysis. Simply overlaying each data set on top of one another, where it intersects, that's the answer. It's simple, but there's no real way to rank the results. At most, only a single metric can be used. Usually it's going to be the last one, which essentially makes Olympia, with its lower priced homes, equal to the more expensive homes of Gig Harbor, even though because they have the similar number of parks. This makes a weighted analysis a better option. We can take each attribute, and even new ones like the average house age, assign them a value on a 1 to 5 scale, and then give each result a weight. Adding up the results, you end up with a score for each area, sometimes in a vastly different result than what the Boolean analysis gave us. Not only does this allow for, say, Silverdale to rank higher than Gig Harbor or Olympia, it now includes Camas as an option, which wasn't on the list previously. So, what does this tell us? Well, after taking in recent housing data, school assessments, park locations, and then comparing them with our retirees' requirements using the rated analysis, we're able to identify 5 areas that should meet his needs. Not only does this list show where our retirees should begin their house hunt, it specifies which area should be the first one to go after. Olympia, specifically the portion attending McKinney Elementary, has decent schools, cheap housing, and a large number of nearby parks. Silverdale is similar, but their larger homes are offset by the higher price tags. Camas, ranked between the two, has better schools and large, cheaper homes, with only the low number of parks that keep it from taking that top spot. Regardless of which of these areas he chooses, he will probably spend his retirement being content. Unless he does go for that second job, then all bets are off. Speaking of the second job, though, if we did want to go further in this study, there's always additional data sets that could be used to further rank or filter locations. There are additional scrapers that could pull data from Indeed.com or other job search sites that could find the availability of those communication and IT jobs that he has experience in. Census data could be used to find the locations within the same median age groups or the same socioeconomic statuses. But the processes for both of those concepts are the same as what we've already used in this presentation today, so it's being skipped for now. Anyways, this is everything that I've gone over, and pending any questions, this concludes the presentation. Thank you.